Good morning, everybody, and welcome to the Service and Separation webinar. On behalf of the California Department of Veteran Affairs and the CalTAP team, I would like to welcome you to this webinar on your benefits while you prepare to separate from active duty service or thereafter. My name is Kirk Eller. I am a CalTAP training coordinator, and I will be providing you some information regarding applying for benefits and how to apply as you prepare to separate and things that you want to consider before you do separate or directly thereafter. First thing I would like to mention is we have a Q&A tab at the bottom of the toolbar or top of the toolbar, wherever you have your format of your windows. Hit that little Q&A tab and open that chat box, and you can put your questions. If you have any questions during this time, place it in that Q&A tab. We will address those questions either throughout the webinar or we will wait until the end. We will be holding a Q&A session to go over all the questions. You should have received in the notification of this webinar an email that had a link to our resource book. Our resource book is this blue document here. My colleague, Michael Cisneros, will be posting a link in the chat that you will be able to download this document from the chat. If not, we will also have a link to our website where you can access it from our webpage and download it from that point as well. We have a great webinar for you today. We will be going over some highlights of your California benefits from the CalTAP or the calvet California benefits. And then we have our link coordinator, Merlene Steinbeck from the Inland Empire. She's going to talk about what her roles and responsibilities are. And then we also have the San Mateo County VSO who's here. Ed is going to talk about how to apply for those benefits as you transition out of the service. And then we'll follow up at the end with a Q&A. So with that being said, let's go ahead and move forward. I know there's still a lot of people in the waiting room that are still attending, so I'm kind of going to take a little bit of time until they all get in. So if you're not familiar with the Zoom platform, this is the snapshot of the Q&A tab at the bottom of the page, what it would look like to you. I know it may be a little small and difficult for you to see that, but the little Q&A, if it's highlighted there, open that up, and that's where you would put any of your questions, and we'll address those at the end. Again, this is what our Veterans Resource Book looks like, a snapshot of that page. It does have a welcome message from our secretary, Dr. Imbasiani, and it gives you a nice welcome on the front page of that resource book. So again, my name is Kirk Eller. A little about myself. I am a training coordinator here at the California Department of Veteran Affairs. I am a Marine Corps veteran. I served from 1986 to 1990 as a CH-53 helicopter crew chief. After separating, I was continuing on with my education using the Montgomery GI Bill benefit. And I did not complete all of my benefits. I left a lot of those on the table. There was a time limit to use those. So that's why this webinar is important, because you realize how critical those benefits are, because some of them may expire. I did end up going back and using my Chapter 31 to complete my education and get my bachelor's degree. And then I joined Calvet in 2019. So I'd like to talk a little bit about what the CalTAP program is. CalTAP is designed to inform and connect veterans of all eras, not just active duty or separated service members, to what your federal and earned state benefits are. And we also like to provide that continued support and assistance as those needs change over time. How we do that is through 5 pathways, which is the core curriculum, education, employment, entrepreneurship, and there's a 5th pathway for service providers that are interested in doing business or serving veterans. So this is a quick snapshot of a veteran's life cycle map. Since November is our Veterans Life Cycle Month, we'd like to highlight this and show that we're going to be highlighting what separation and service, and we will have webinars throughout the month which focus on each one of these timelines of the veteran's life cycle. Today we're focusing on separating and serving, service and separation, excuse me, and things that you will need to do on a timely manner as you prepare to separate from active duty or thereafter. We will also have webinars later in the month on post-military life, on benefits that you may be considering for that era, as well as retirement and aging and things that you would need to focus on during that period. We'd also like to recommend that this just gives you a brief overview of that continuum of care that we would like to provide those veterans throughout this life cycle. On our webpage at calvet.ca.gov, you can access the CalTAP portal by showing the highlighted link there. Once you access the CalTAP portal, you can see each one of the pathways is shown. We're going to focus on the core curriculum pathway, which does have a list of what your California specific benefits are. It does have California specific benefits, but it also has a module 10, which shows how to reboot your civilian self. We're focusing on service and separation. So this is a great module that's a self-paced module. All of these are that you can look through and gain information on a variety of topics. You can also look at module 4, which highlights some of the information on claims and compensation, or module 5, which has your California specific benefits. Under module 10, you can see the overview of the lesson, the module, and then each one of the lessons in review, and you can go through these at your self-pace, or you can watch the YouTube video. And this gives you some information on things that you'll want to prepare for as you prepare to separate. One of the things is the transition and care management. Some things that you will want to focus on, and we're going to talk about with our County Veteran Service Officer, is applying for VA healthcare. It is important that you can apply for VA healthcare. This care goes after you separate as well. But you may want to do it prior to separating. You will want to also contact the County Veteran Service Officer so that you can file a claim. If you have any disability claim that you'll file prior to exiting the service, it's important that you do it prior to, so that there's a seamless transition if you have a disability claim to be compensated once you separate. You may also want to consider filing unemployment with EDD, not just for the unemployment benefits, but also for employment purposes, and receive some of those employment benefits that you can with a veteran representative from EDD. Also want to think of secure housing. Where are you going to live when you get ready to transition out? Are you going to stay with family or friends? Temporary housing until you can get established with an employment with a job or going to school? Or is it going to be a permanent house in the residence that you already have? Those are some of the key functions that you want to think about housing and how important it is as you separate, anywhere between 180 days to 90 days before you separate. And also have a financial plan. This could be up to a year prior to separation. You'll want to start saving ahead of time so that you can have a good nest egg saved so that you're not strapped financially when you get out into the civilian market if you're unemployed for a period of time, or you're not receiving a paycheck directly without a job, or you're getting enrolled in school and you're transitioning in that separation between earning your GI Bill benefits. You'll also want to stay connected with veteran networks and organizations, things like the VFW or American Legion or Marine Corps League. Stay connected with these so that you can have that camaraderie with those other fellow veterans, and you can also serve in your community as well. Some other time-sensitive benefits that you want to consider is the life insurance that you may be eligible for. Your service group life insurance will expire. You will have a time limit to apply for the Veterans Group Life Insurance policy. It's typically 120 days that you'll have to apply for those insurances. And once that expires, you will no longer be eligible to apply for that. So you want to think about that before you separate or as you transition out to keep that benefit available to you. If you do have a service-connected disability benefit connected with the VA, you can apply for the DVGLI, which is the Disabled Veteran Group Life Insurance, but you have a time limit from the time that you apply for your disability claim until you can be apply for that insurance. Also, if you are going to transfer any education benefits to your dependents, you would want to do that prior to separating. And there is going to be a commitment to service if you have transfer to your benefits of your dependents. So they will want to make sure that you have enough time before you separate on your contract. So that's going to affect the amount of time that you have left on your contract. Also, if you have a disability medically, You may want to consider filing for a veteran readiness and employment or Chapter 31 prior to separating. If you're going to be released on a medical discharge, you may consider a VRNE because this will be a seamless transition of your benefits for you to be into a program that can assist you with getting gainfully employed or going to school. These are some of the considerations you want to look at, and then we're going to go over these a little bit more in detail with our county veteran officer. Our state benefits specifically begin on Chapter 1 of our California resource book. It shows here the 8 link regions on this page, on page 13. And I'm just going to give you a brief overview of highlight what those California benefits are on one slide. Condensed version, we have a college tuition fee waiver. We have DMV programs for like just veterans designation on your driver's license, disabled license plates, or registration fee waivers. There's also outdoor activities, your hunting and fishing license at reduced fees, as well as a state park pass. There's eligible tax programs, and then CalVet home loans. And we also have a CalVet Women Veterans Division and a Minority Veterans Division. And then we have 8 CalVet homes for long-term care, and then 3 state cemeteries throughout the state. I know this is a condensed version, but if you have any questions in regarding each one of these benefits, please contact us at our 800 number. You can email me directly. My contact information will be on the last part of this slide, or you can contact the CalTAP team, and we will all be more than happy to give you any information that you have on any one of these benefits that you have earned. Other veteran websites that you should be knowledgeable on are the VA websites. Va.gov is a central portal for you to access your benefits and gain information from each one of these, the healthcare, disability, or records. Any of the benefits or healthcare, or your cemeteries and memorials division, you can access these through the VA website. If you want to manage any of these benefits, you would go to eBenefits. eBenefits is where you can check your payments or your payment history for your GI Bill benefits or your disability compensation payments, or you can apply for healthcare on this website as well. Speaking of healthcare, My Health eVet is a website that gives you access to your doctors to create appointments, message your doctor, gain your access to your health records, and any prescription needs that you have. CalTAP would also like to have continued support with you as those needs change over time. That continuum of support and care, we are very crucial and passionate about that. We want you to provide a non-DoD email to CalTAP, and we can continue our conversation and contact with you. You can fill out today's survey. We will be posting a survey in the chat at a later time. Please take that survey. We take that very seriously, and we value your feedback so that we can use this time and information to continually change our topics to focus on your needs. We also ask that you go to our webpage on calvet.ca.gov and register for My CalVet on our homepage. This gives you an opportunity to filter out the benefits that you're looking for through My CalVet to tailor them as you see fit. You can also like us on Facebook at CalVet Veteran Services, and you can also attend other webinars like this. So we want to thank you for joining us today, and hopefully you'll get some information that's valuable for you to use in the future. This is my contact information. The 800 number there is our 800 number. CalVet does pride itself on this 800 number that a live person will answer that phone. If it does go to voicemail, we will get back with you directly if any questions that you have. This is my email address. You can email me directly if you have any questions. And also our Facebook page here, you can like us on Facebook. Just hit that QR code there to take you to the Facebook page. Again, I'm going to move forward now, and we have Merlene Steinbeck with us. She is our Inland Empire link for local interagency network coordinator, and she's going to provide some information on what her roles and responsibilities are. Thank you for joining us, Merlene. Merlene, there you go.
I was muted, so I apologize.
No, thank you for joining us. We appreciate you being here.
Thanks. So yeah, I had some trouble logging in this morning, but was able to get through. So I wanted to talk to you a little bit about what the links do. I'm a local interagency network coordinator, and so that's a whole lot of words, and I want to explain to you real quick what that means. Kirk, can you give me the next slide, please? So what the state of California did is we broke the state of California into 8 different regions. And my area is that big red area there on the right. And as you can tell, each of the areas have different geographical needs. I mean, Orange County, for example, way there down there in the small, they have a very small geographical region. However, they have just as many veterans in their entire region as mine. So what they do is not, maybe they're not going to be traveling as far, but this is going to be more integrated, and they're very, very busy as well. And transportation may become more difficult in my area just based on the distance. Age demographics change, needs of the veterans change in each one, and each of the links, they all are very aware of what their veterans need in their area, and they have a network of various different agencies, federal, state, and nonprofits that can assist with that. Next slide, please. So what we do is we provide outreach to service members, veterans, and their families. We make referrals and work directly with established service providers, and we assist with local emergencies. For example, the fires that we've had recently will have a link on site at the local assistance center to assist with paperwork that may have been burnt up. DT 214s may have been lost. There are several different things that reason why we would be on site. We also provide leadership and advocacy to the local communities. You're always going to find a link on site at many of the different community meetings, and most of the time people actually come up and ask, hey, CalVet's here, what's going on? Because they know that we're in the know. So we have that large network. Next slide. We have, connections with state benefits. We have connections at the county veteran service offices. We have connections at the VA medical centers, their clinics, their vet centers. We have employment, any part of the state of California, we should have contacts that we can connect you with. And a lot of times people just want to know, how do I get a job? And so we assist them with different needs for that. Next slide. So this is my contact information. Should you have any questions, go ahead and reach out directly to me. And I should, I'm usually really fairly quickly at responding. So I'm going to go ahead and hand it over to my next colleague to talk more about the county veteran service offices.
Thank you, Merlene. Please reach out to her if you have any questions on what her roles are and networking with your continuum of care. She can reach out to those people in those agencies to get you connected in a warm handoff. So thank you, Merlene, for that information. And now we have Ed from the County Veteran Service Office from San Mateo County. He's going to give you an overview of his roles, responsibilities, and applying for VA benefits. Thank you for joining us, Ed.
Thanks, Kirk. Hopefully everybody can hear me okay. My name is Ed Kirkson. I'm the county's Veteran Services Officer for San Mateo County. I'm a former Marine. For those of you that were in the Corps, 1833. I served from 89 to 93. I deployed a couple of times. First time in the first Gulf War, and the second time in a typical 6-month Marine Med deployment. And I'm here to share with you a little bit more information about our Veteran Services Office and the services that we can provide and how we can help you as veterans as you exit service and get ready to become a civilian again. So next slide, please. Okay, so I'd like to start off by just talking a little bit about who we are and how we fit into the grand scheme of things. So once you get out, you're going to be interacting with a lot of different organizations in pursuit of a lot of the different benefits that you've earned. One of the biggest providers of benefits is the federal government, through the Veterans Administration. If you are claiming educational benefits, if you're claiming disability, pension, any of the different programs, even health, you're going to be going through the VA administration. CalVet, which you've heard a lot about earlier in this presentation, is California's veterans Affairs Department, and they provide a tremendous amount of support in addition to a lot of additional programs and benefits that you, as a California veteran, have access to. The County Veteran Services Office is a county office. So we do not work for Calvet, we do not work for the VA. I like to say that we work for you, the veteran. We're county employees. We are accredited through the VA. And we do act as a power of attorney on behalf of veterans in pursuit of a lot of the different claims that are out there for you, or a lot of different programs that are available to you. Our job, though, is to support you. And I think the reason I really like to point this out is because you will be applying for benefits to the VA. We will be on your side in that application process, supporting you, guiding you, and helping you access those benefits. And then in addition to that, there are a tremendous number of local and statewide and even federal service providers that are out there that provide tremendous service. So services from employment assistance, vocational training, if you're homeless, if you need stabilized housing, if you need food, if you need support, there's a lot of different service providers that are out there. And we work hard to try to integrate our support, not just in helping you access the programs through Calvet and through the VA, but also helping you connect with local service providers that can help make a difference in your life. I'll give you an example. I work with a gentleman who we'll be talking to this afternoon, who helps furnish veterans homes for free. So these are the sort of programs that we can help you connect to the county's Veteran Services Office. Next slide, please. So really quick overview, because I do want to get into the nitty gritty of Service Connection, which is our #1 program that we support veterans with. But the VA Health Administration, it oversees health benefits, hospitals and clinics, and pharmacy. The VA Benefits Administration is where you're going to go for compensation, education, and training, home loans, life insurance, veteran readiness and employment. And the National Cemetery Administration, which is burial benefits, headstone markers, medallions, presidential memorial certificates, national grave site locators. For a lot of you younger veterans, not something that's probably pegging too high on your radar, but believe me, later on in life, these are the sort of benefits that actually start to become meaningful. We can help you access it. And then, of course, Calvet's programs. And Calvet talked a little bit about the different programs they have. As a veteran myself, I actually have taken advantage of a number of the different programs through Calvet. And I got to tell you, California does an outstanding job of really trying to make sure that it takes care of its veterans. I can't emphasize it enough. Absolutely look into the programs and benefits that are out there. Don't be like I was when I got out. Didn't even realize I didn't even have access to healthcare, and kind of muddled my way through doing things on my own until I finally smartened up and went and found out what was out there for me. And then ever since then, I've always looked back and said, geez, I really need to make sure that as veterans get out, that we do, and I do as best a job as possible, helping them understand what's available to them and how we can help them in that integration process, which, believe it or not, can be challenging. So next slide. All right. So we provide veterans independents free benefits, information, assistance, and counseling. To give you an example, in the state of California in 2020, County Veteran Service Office has brought in approximately 540 million new annualized federal dollars and 336 million in continued annualized benefits for California veterans. Our job is to help you access those benefits that are out there for you. Next slide. So types of assistance that you can find through a Veteran Services Office is comprehensive benefits counseling, network and advocacy with federal, state, and local agencies, dependency and indemnity compensation for survivors, a very important program that actually helps the survivors of veterans maintain some degree of financial security, burial benefits, as I mentioned earlier, claims and compensation, which is probably the biggest program that my office supports, probably going to be the same case across the state at all CVSO offices, pension and life insurance. We can help you with records requests. We can help you with discharge upgrades. And that's actually going to be an important conversation for folks that are getting out or haven't gotten out yet. What is your discharge going to look like? What does that mean for you? And what can you do before and after you get out of service if you aren't happy with the discharge that you think you're going to be assigned. College fee waiver, which for those of you that have kids, for those of you that will have kids at some point, can be a very big deal. It's a program that I take advantage of, and it's a program that we actually have a lot of veterans coming to our office for. And then the veterans designation, which is essentially helping you get your veterans ID. In California, you can actually get the veteran symbol on your California driver's license or ID card, and it can actually be very helpful. There's a website that the VA has or hosts with a whole list of different organizations and businesses that provide discounts and benefits to veterans. And unless you want to carry your DD 214 around with you all the time, this is an outstanding way to prove that you're a veteran. So, next slide. So let me get to probably what is the most commonly requested or biggest program that we assist veterans with here in our office. Okay, and that's service-connected disability. So service-connected disability is any condition, injury, or disease that is caused by, aggravated by, or first diagnosed during military service, as long as it is chronic in nature or has residuals. So what that means is that if you broke your leg in service and you find that years later you have arthritis in that leg, you potentially have a service-connected disability. If you were deployed to a combat zone, and as a result of that, you've been dealing with issues, mental health issues, struggling to adapt, you potentially have a service-connected disability. The key thing is that these are issues that you still are dealing with. So if you broke your leg in service and hurt a lot, but today you're 100% fine, you won't necessarily have a service-connected disability. So it has to be something that has residuals, something that you're dealing with today. Next slide, please. So what is required for a service-connected disability? So it's incumbent upon the veteran to substantiate a few things. One, that something happened during military service to cause or aggravate this injury. Either the injury, disease, exposure, or event, that there's a current condition, and probably the most important part is what we call the nexus link. And that is the link between the military service and the current condition. So in other words, we have to help you make an argument that it is reasonable that what you're dealing with today is a result of experience, exposure, disease, injury, or event that occurred in service. Next slide. So how do we do this? So first and foremost, you contact us and we'll have a conversation with you. And it's just one of what will end up being a lot of conversations. So it's just a preliminary, hey, how are you doing? What kind of, what can we help you with? What benefits are you looking for? Say, hey, my back has hurt ever since I got out of the military, or I've had a really difficult time concentrating since I got out of the military, or this happened in the military, or et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And then we start having that conversation. Okay, tell us a little about what happened in service. Tell us a little about what you're experiencing today. Tell us a little bit about how you've been treating it. Have you seen it? Have you been seen by a doctor? Have you got a diagnosis, et cetera? And then we get into the nitty-gritty. But before we get there, the first thing we're going to do is we're going to assist you with your claim. So as accredited veteran services officers, we can act as your power of attorney in prosecuting this claim. First things first is we will file an intent to file. And what that means is that we will notify the VA that we intend to file a claim for compensation. That lets the VA know that we are going to work on putting together a claim. And that captures the date that we submit the intent to file as the first date of your claim. Now, we have a year from the date that we filed the intent to file to gather all the evidence and information and to submit our claim. And once the claim is adjudicated, if the claim is found to be service-connected claim, your compensation, benefits, everything will actually go back to the date that we filed the intent to file. So the intent to file works both ways. First, it assists the VA in processing their claims because it helps expedite the process. We are going to do the work of gathering all the information, gathering all the evidence, the supporting documentation, etc., to make the claim. They then can review based on the information that we provided. Conversely, it means we don't have to rush. It means that we can put together a thoughtful plan that does a good job of providing reasonable linkage between what you're dealing with today and your service without having to worry about losing money. So next thing we're going to do is we're going to start building your claim. So questions like, well, so when you broke your leg, did you go to sick bay? Were you treated for it? Or when you had this experience, did you ever talk to anybody in service about it? Did you ever report it? Did you ever stitch out? Did you ever seek medical attention for this? And I just want to say, it's not necessary for you to have done that to be service connected. In fact, one could argue, I think very convincingly, that it's not typically within the constructs of the military to complain about everything, to go to sick bay all the time. In fact, you're probably encouraged not to. And in multiple different reasons, not the least of which is that sometimes things that you experience in the military don't really come back and start bothering you until later on in life. So you don't have to have reported, but that's going to be part of our conversation, because how we construct your claim is going to really be driven by that. So, and again, we have veteran services reps that have been doing this for a long time. We have a lot of claims that we've worked with. We have access to the VA system. We have access to previous decisions and the logic and thought process behind previous decisions that the VA has made that we can apply to helping develop their claim. Once we've gathered all the information and submitted your claim, the VA is going to go ahead and set up a pension and compensation exam, where they themselves will actually do an examination of whatever issues that we have filed as a claim. That does two things. One, it helps validate the current diagnosis, and it also helps to determine the severity. The VA has a rating scale from 0 to 100%. I'll just put a caveat to that. It doesn't work the way your typical 0 to 100% works, but we can talk about that later. Or when you call me, we can talk a little more about that. But essentially what the VA says is that you can be service connected from 0%, which is that the VA concedes that you're dealing with or have a residual from service. Could be a scar, for example, right? But it's not debilitating enough to be at a compensable level. Well, that's fine, but they concede that you do have something. And 0% service connection can actually be very beneficial when it comes to accessing some of the benefits that are out there. All the way up to 100% disabled, meaning that for all intents and purposes, your disabilities as a result of service have rendered you really unable to find and maintain gainful employment or live a normal life. And as a result, the military is bound to assist you in multiple different ways. Compensation is one of them, treatment and access to healthcare is another. Once that's all submitted, we wait for the decision. And if that decision comes back and we don't agree with it, well, we know all the avenues for appeals process. So again, we've been doing this for a long time, have a lot of information. All these services are free to veterans when they come into our office. Next slide. Discharge upgrades are a conversation that we have with veterans on a regular basis. I would really suggest that you take the time to, if you have a question about discharge upgrades, for those of you that have been discharged, there is a website here, which is with the VA. It's va.gov/discharge upgrade instructions. They have a self-test that you can go through to really kind of determine whether or not you'd be eligible for a discharge upgrade. Now, a couple things I'll say about discharge upgrades. There are some myths out there that probably should be dispelled. First, they don't automatically upgrade. If you get out of the military with a OTH, other than honorable, or you get out with general under honorable conditions, it doesn't become an honorable after a year, 2 years, 3 years. And just because you kept your nose clean doesn't mean you can petition for a discharge upgrade. Generally, a discharge upgrade is contesting the merits of the original discharge. In other words, it'd be incumbent on us, yourself, whoever is petitioning for an upgrade, to show that there was bias or prejudice or something else that was done erroneously in determining and assigning that level of discharge to you. Now, not a super hard argument to make. You may be in a command where that commanding officer has real big problem with anybody who drinks and drives, or with anybody who gets caught smoking weed. They are going to, they're going to make an example out of them. It could be prejudicial, especially if you look at other commands and you see that the punishment, severity, and discharge type aren't the same. You can argue for prejudicial rationales as to why we think you did not deserve or you did not merit the discharge that you got. But it does sort of limit what you can do. Now, for those of you that have yet to get out, there are a lot of really good websites that talk about discharge upgrades. One of the things I would suggest, and we can have this conversation offline, if you are going to get discharged and you feel that you're not going to be getting the discharge that you think you deserve, there is a lot of compelling reason to fight for it before you get it. Okay, so I'll leave it at that. We can assist you with just informing you more about the whole process, and then we can connect you with different legal services that might be able to assist you. At the end of the day, the most important thing is to be informed, especially when it comes to things like your discharge, because honorable discharge can make a big difference between the programs you can access and some of the programs you will not be able to access. Next slide. Okay, so for those of you that are in San Mateo County, pretty easy to find me, and I'll give you my information. But for those of you that might move around, let's talk about how you can find a VSO close to you that can help you access these programs. Next slide. Okay, so first and foremost, that wonderful Calvet resource guide that you're going to get access to has a directory of county veteran services offices. Each county in California is required to have a veteran services office. Okay, and a lot of the counties, not all of them, have robust offices with multiple veteran services reps that are there to help you. The list of all these is there in the handbook, so you can always look that up. Next. You can always go to the Calvet website, where you can actually go to find your veteran services officer. Next slide. You're able to put in your zip code and then put in the distance. They'll be able to provide you with the names of all the local veteran services officers in your area. Next slide. And you can always, if you need to, call the number that's listed right there and let them know what you're looking for, where you are, and they'll look it up for you. One thing I do want to point out is that you are not bound to your veteran services office in your county. You can work with any veteran services office because we're all affiliated under CalVet. But I do recommend that you start with a regional or local. There's oftentimes a lot of value in being able to sit down and talk to a VSR. And if you're working with somebody that's a couple hundred miles away, it's always going to be tough. So I would always suggest start with your local VSO and try to start your process there. But at the end of the day, if you started working with a VSO in one county and you've had a lot of really good success with them and you move to another county and want to continue to work with them, it's typically not a problem. We try to avail ourselves to you in any way, shape we can, so we can support you in any way, shape we can. So next slide. All right. So this is my contact information. And we have an office. It's at 550 Quarry Road in San Carlos. That is our office phone number, 650-802-6598. That's my personal email. Below is our office email. So I'm going to actually, in a second, introduce everyone to our outreach coordinator, Tyrese, who will talk a little bit about how we try to get information out to veterans. But I want to share something about our office real quick. With us, the county in general, sort of coming out of the COVID, our office is open to walk-ins and drop-ins on Tuesdays and Thursdays from 8 o'clock to 4 o'clock. We do close for lunch from 12 to 1. But if you ever want to just pop in and say hello, Tuesdays and Thursdays of the day. We do have appointments 5 days a week though. And we do try to operate as much as we can through appointments because of two things. One, I like to have a conversation, or my VSRs like to have a conversation with you before you come to the office so that you can grab the documentation and bring it with you. so that we can have as productive a conversation as possible. We also want to find out what is your preferred way of meeting. We can do phone calls. We can do web chat, Zoom, Teams, whatever works. You can do it in person. It's whatever works for you. And the VA and the state have availed us of electronic signature tools, et cetera, so that, if you don't ever want to set foot in this office, there's ways that we can help you. You can still get your documents signed. We can still send you all the documentation review, et cetera. If you want to come in and see us, because you just think we're so great and you need to spend some time with us, whatever, I don't care. You're welcome to. You're welcome to. Now, the best thing to do is to call our 802-6598 number, which is our main office number, and just and our folks at the front desk will be able to give you a lot of information. And if you want to talk to a VSR, we'll set you up with a good time, an appointment, and methodology that you prefer, and we'll get everything started there. I do want to turn it over to Tyrese here, and Tyrese is going to talk a little bit about the social media that we have, because there are announcements, programs, series, law changes, a multitude of different things that happen that we try to get out to our veterans, employers looking for veterans, you name it. So the way we're trying to do this is social media. But then for those of you that are old school, we also have an email list. So I'll turn it over to Tyrese to talk a little bit more about how to get on those, or how to follow us on social media. I don't know about y'all. Tyrese, I can't hear you. I'm sorry. Nope, no joy. Well, the challenges of Zoom are real, apparently. So, okay, let me give it a shot then. All right, so you see our email there, or our email for our website address, which has our contact email on. We do have an Instagram account. We do have a Twitter account. It is SMC_CVSO in both Twitter and Instagram. If you would like to get on an email list so that whenever we have any sort of announcements, we can send an email out to you, feel free to email me at my email address, which is right there. It's ekirkson@smcgov.org, and just say, hey, I'd like to get on our email list, and we'll add you to our list. Okay. But again, we do try to get information out there as much as possible. Really want to encourage you to, if you can, follow us on social media. And that way, when things come out, you have an opportunity to, be aware of them. So I think that's our last slide. Awesome. Thank you.
Ed, thank you very much for that information. I think Tyrese, I don't know if his microphone is still working. I see his video did pop up there. Tyrese, can you speak? Is your microphone working? Can you hear? No, okay, so that's fine. If you want to, we can continue on. We're just going to go and move on to our Q&A portion. Thank you, Ed. That was very informative. Hopefully all of our attendees and people listening in got some information about why they should contact you, as well as some insight into what benefits are available to them. So with that being said, I'm going to bring in my colleague, Michael Cisneros, who was running the back side of the question and answers and posting the information in the chat throughout this webinar. Michael, I did see we have one question, and I want to bring this up now. If anybody would like to ask any more questions, please open that Q&A tab at the bottom of your screen or on the toolbar, and you can address or ask any of the questions. We have everybody on board here as a panel to answer it collectively, or if we don't know the answer, we will definitely look into that answer and get back with you at a later time. So with that being said, I'll turn it over to Michael. Thank you, Michael.
Okay. Yeah. Hello, everybody. Michael Cisneros, another training coordinator with Calvet. So with the questions and answers, looks like right now it's a little light. We got one question so far, but the questions and answers panel is open. for anybody who does want to ask one of the panelists anything. So this first question asks, and it might be a CVSO question, for those with a disability pension, what's the process to request additional service? For those already with a disability pension, what's the process to request additional service-connected disability from the VA? Is there anyone who can support in submitting an application or an appeal?
Okay, so in reading this question, you say disability pension. So pension is a separate program, and pension typically will be for those folks that don't have a service-connected disability necessarily. So I'm not sure if they meant a service-connected disability or the actual pension program. But generally, the path is for any, so for pension, you either have the pension or you don't have the pension. Okay. For the service-connected disability, you can always file claims for additional items. There's nothing that prevents you from filing claims for additional items. You can also file a claim if you feel that the issue that you are service-connected for has actually worsened. So we can ask for a review for service connection increase for an issue. If you have been denied for an issue, we can always appeal that issue. Now, without getting into a tremendous amount of weeds here, typically when you're denied, you want to appeal as soon as possible so that you can continue. Because you have a period of time in which you can appeal to continue to maintain your original intent to file, but it doesn't preclude you if you didn't in time. You can always appeal. And then there's different paths for appeal. So I'm not sure that answers the question. Hopefully it does, but if you do have a service-connected disability and you want to talk about an increase, absolutely file for an increase. If you were denied and you think you were erroneously denied, then we can appeal. And if you have new issues on top of it, then absolutely. And let me just add one thing. That can include secondary issues. So, and that could mean that a secondary issue, which is actually a result of your primary service-connected disability, has popped up. We can talk about how to file a claim for that also. So.
All right, yeah, and for those of you that have questions about your specific benefits, feel free to use the contact information there on the screen. Reach out to any one of the representatives from the CVSOs, or if you have questions about, anything that we discussed today, feel free to reach out to Kirk or myself. So this next question says, I have been scheduled for a CMP appointment, but it's with a contractor called LHI. Is this normal?
Yes.
Good. All right, simple as that. All right, so that's the next one. Oh, they're coming in right now. All right, so I'm on active duty and using post 9/11 bill benefits to pay for my oldest to San Diego State. I expect to retire July 1st, 2022. How do I transfer benefits from post 9/11 bill to CalVets? With that question, are you asking about a specific education benefit through CalVet? Because with your post 9/11 bill, if you transfer that to your, and please, Kirk or Ed, if you guys want to jump in, when you transfer your post 9/11 bill to your child, you shouldn't have to do anything with CalVet afterwards. It should just go right through. And if you're looking for education benefits with CalVet, the only other education benefit that they would have would be the dependent fee waiver, which you can get that started with your CVSO.
Right. Yeah. And then also, if they're eligible, if you do have a service-connected disability rating of 100%, they could be using Chapter 35 benefits as well. And they can actually use those congruently with the fee waiver if they're on Plan B. They can't use Chapter 35 if they're eligible for that dependent educational assistance, the DEA. If they're using Chapter 35, they cannot use Plan A. Plan A is solely for 100% service-connected disability veterans, for their spouses or their dependents. But there's an age limit that they can use that benefit. It's up to age 27. If the dependent is a veteran and they fall under Plan A, they can actually extend the age out to, I believe, age 31. Under Plan B, there is an earning limit threshold for the dependent. So they would have to fall within that earning threshold from the national poverty level which is roughly around $13,000 a year annually. And this would allow them to use their Chapter 35 benefits on top of that if they're eligible for 35. So they could use the Chapter 35 for their books and their housing or any other additional costs while going to school, while their fee for their tuition is waived. Now, I think the question is if they're using the 9/11 benefits that they've transferred to the dependent, how do you transition the benefits from the post 9/11 bill to CalVet? Well, they're different benefits. So I think the CalVet fee waiver is what Michael was saying. It is a fee waiver for the tuition. It has nothing to do with your 9/11 or post 9/11 or forever GI bill. They're completely different benefits. If you go to the 800 number for your GI benefits, you can look at the 800 number and you can ask what benefits you have left. And then you can also look on our website for the fee waiver on which plans they may be eligible for. But they will be eligible for Plan B regardless as long as you have a service-connected disability from 0 to 100%. So that's why what Ed was saying, it's critical that you apply for those benefits prior to separating or right after separating, because especially if they're, that continuous care and having that benefit available to you seamlessly, you don't want it to stop for any reason of time. So it's important that you do that prior to separating.
Can I just add one thing to that? And to piggyback, if you haven't discharged yet, and you haven't had an opportunity to have your exit physical yet, it's really important to try to be as upfront and honest and report all the issues prior to exiting service. That way it can be documented in your service treatment records. And exit physicals are actually a very common place where a veteran will talk about issues like hearing loss, tinnitus, aches and pains, etc. And it gives the military an opportunity to review and document it also. So I would encourage folks that haven't yet discharged and who have that opportunity to do that.
Yep. Thanks, Ed. All right, this next question. I'm originally from California. I currently reside in Texas for work, though I go back and forth to California. To my second, I have to reside in California to file a case there.
Seems like this is a two-part question in a sense. VA benefits are federal, right? So VA benefits like service compensation, pension, disability, et cetera, are all going to be the same across. But CalVet benefits are CalVet benefits. So I'll let you guys answer how that would correspond with that sort of situation.
Yeah, and with that, depending on which benefit you're going for, there are certain rules that they have to go by. Like if you are a disabled veteran who wants to certify a business that you want to open, if you're certifying it through the state, then yeah, you'd have to be a California resident. If you're trying to take advantage of that fee waiver, with that, sometimes it depends on the school. So the school may require the veteran to be a California resident, and sometimes they don't require it. They'll only require the student. So it just depends on which benefit you're looking at. But for the most part, yeah, if you're trying to get California benefits, most likely they want to keep you in California. So you'll have to reside in California.
Yeah. And on top of that, Michael, I think a good rule of thumb is, I like you said it, what benefits are you looking to use and which ones are you going to access? Are you going to access the Texas benefits the most? You may want to look into the Texas benefits specifically that they have versus the California benefits, and which ones are going to utilize the most as to where you file your VA claim. So if you live in Texas, but we want you to stay in California, obviously we're CalVet. So to access those benefits, you would need to reside in California. So.
All right, this next one says a disability claim was submitted for my father, who was a U.S. Air Force veteran. We received correspondence from the Department of Veteran Affairs stating they could not find any of his military records. What can we do?
So again, I'm just going off of what's written here. My first question would be, so was the claim adjudicated? In other words, did they deny the benefits because they couldn't find it? Or are they just notifying you that they have not been able to find it? Not being able to find a veteran's records is not enough to deny a veteran access to benefits. There are instances where certain segments of veterans' records were destroyed in a fire, for example. And so there are processes for trying to rebuild those service treatment records and the service records themselves. So there are multiple ways to try to address this. It's a case by case basis. I would say at the very least, if you have any information in your possession, copy of the discharge papers, orders, anything, any sort of evidence whatsoever, I'd start with that. But again, I go back to my first question was, has the VA notified you they haven't been able to find a record, or have they adjudicated and said, part of the reason why we're presenting this finding is because we were unable to find military records? And then I'd start from there. And just to listen, if you're working with a VSO, which is going to be a lot of opportunity to work with the different organizations out there. A lot of organizations that'll tell you they'll do things as long as you pay them to do these things for you, right? There's a lot of organizations that can help you file your claim for a portion of your compensation plan. One thing a lot of these organizations can do that a VSO can do is look in your VA file. Okay, so I would suggest if you started working with the VSO, follow up with the VSO. If you haven't worked with the VSO, reach out to a VSO, because we do have a lot of tools at our disposal to help veterans and family members with their claims. So,
yep, cool. All right,
That's a good point. Thank you, Ed.
All right. Next question: is there a program that can assist veterans with orthodontic care, such as Invisalign? Dental. Kirk, do you know for sure? I don't think the VA covers dental, do they?
It depends on if you have a service-connected disability rating that is specific to dental care. You can receive dental care from the VA. Under a general disability compensation, you would not, or VA healthcare, you would not have dental provided unless you were maybe retired and you had that benefit from there. So just under a disability compensation and VA healthcare, you would not have dental care or orthodontic care provided. It would have to be specific to your individual case.
We are working with, we're working on pulling together information on what sort of dental care is available for the average veteran. But you're absolutely right. The dental care in particular to the VA is very limited. You have to be 100% service connected, or you have to have a dental related service connected issue. And even then they'll only focus on that particular issue. But there are some opportunities, and there are some organizations out there that do help veterans with accessing dental care at a reduced rate, if not free, but that's also going to be an income-based program. So we're working on pulling as much of that information together. So again, if you follow us on Instagram or reach out to us, again, our email list, as we get more information on this, we'll share it with you. But just so you know, dental has always been a tough nut to crack when it comes to that.
It's a popular one too. All right. If I use most of my post 9/11 benefits, is there any other educational benefits I could apply for? Unfortunately, when it comes to the VA, the education benefits that you receive are pretty much the only education benefits besides like VR&E, if you're able to get some education benefits that way, and the survivor benefits. But other than that, the only other education benefits that Calvet offers is that fee waiver, but that fee waiver is for dependents, child dependents, or spouses in some cases.
And should I, you need to be at least 0% service connected to access
that. Yeah, correct. Yeah. So with the fee waiver, you have to have a service connected disability.
That said, that is an awesome program.
Yeah.
They also may want to consider if they have a service connected disability with limiting them for VR educational, they might want to consider VR&E. Chapter 31 benefits, if that disability prevents you from accessing a job or performing a job, or that job aggravates any kind of service-connected disability, you may be eligible to apply for Chapter 31. That's on a case-by-case basis. You would have to apply independently. You would have to have a minimum service rating of, I believe 10 or 20%. And that rating would have to specifically hinder you from holding that employment, a gainful employment. So you could try Chapter 31 if education benefits would enhance your ability to gain a good employment to sustain yourself, then you could get more educational benefits through 31.
Can I also add that there's some really good VA programs if you are in that situation where you have a disability that's preventing you from, particularly if it's preventing you from doing a work or job that you actually trained to do. There's a vocational rehabilitation program. There's a compensated work therapy program. So a lot of programs that are out there.
All right, so this is the same person who asked about the fee waiver earlier and the post 9/11 benefits that they gave to their kids. Basically, they want to know a little bit more about the fee waiver because they want to keep some of the post 9/11 for the youngest who's still in high school. And so, yeah, so basically, like Kirk was saying earlier, with the college tuition and fee waiver, it's a benefit that's offered through CalVet for this exact purpose. We want the veteran to have a chance to either use their benefits for themselves or, use it wisely with their dependents. So with this fee waiver, what it does is it waives tuition fees for any state-funded school, so any UC, CSU, or California Community College. They're going to be looking at the veterans disability rating. So we see that most veterans take advantage of what's called Plan B. There's 4 different plans, Plan A, B, C, or D. Most veterans fall into Plan B because it does require that disability rating between 0 and 100. However, they're also going to be looking at the child dependence income level. So as long as that veteran has that disability rating that's between 0 and 100, and the child's income level is below the federal poverty line, then they should be eligible for this benefit. The benefit goes, they could use it whenever they want to go to, wherever they want to go to school for whatever degree, California Community College, get an associate's degree, or they could use it all the way up to their PhD if they wanted to, doctorates. But like I said, they would just be continuously checking to see if that student is under that income limit. If you are eligible for Plan A, C, or D, then you can also let your spouse use the benefit. But for the most part, like I said, we see most veterans falling in Plan B. The benefit doesn't run out. So as long as they're going to school, as long as you have that disability rating, and as long as that child is underneath that income limit, then they can continuously use this benefit while they're in school. So I hope that answers that question. It's a lot of information, but yeah, with that one, feel free to give us a call or email us, or check out your Veterans Resource Book. I posted a link, I think, twice in the chat. So if you scroll to the top, you should be able to find it there. But there's a whole section on the education benefits there, or I'm sorry, on the fee waiver in the resource book.
Yeah. Michael, I also like, that benefit for the fee waivers, if they do have a disability rating from the VA, that's what that CalVet fee waiver is for, so that you can save that GI Bill benefit for yourself. So you don't have to transfer that Chapter 36 benefit to your children or your spouse. You can keep that benefit for yourself to continue any kind of education. So that's why it's important to file your claim before you separate, so you don't have to transfer those benefits to dependents, and then use the CalVet fee waiver for their education purposes, and then keep the GI Bill for yourself. That's a good point.
All right, yeah. Take this up if you have any other questions about that fee waiver, though. We can definitely answer those. And then, so this is a follow-up to the question that was asked earlier that Ed answered, whether the person was denied for not having those benefits, or was the claim, I think you said, adjudicated, or were they just letting the individual know that they couldn't find the documents? This person said that their claim was denied. And so in that situation, what would somebody do if their claim was denied for not having proper documentation, or the VA couldn't find documentation?
So I read the benefits were not denied.
Oh, I'm sorry. They said the benefits were not denied. Yes, I'm sorry. Did I say that?
So what the VA is going to correspond with you regularly as a part of the claims process. And so they may also be corresponding with you, asking you for additional information. I do want to point out that the National Records Archive is extremely backlogged right now because of COVID. So could be any number of different things that are causing this. I would say if you're working with veterans, if you're working with a representative, reach out to the representative. They should be able to look in the VA system and tell you what is going on, what's happening with the claim right now. If you file this on your own, which you can absolutely file on your own, then why don't you reach out to us or another veteran services organization, and then we'll see what we can do about getting POA for you and taking a look and seeing what's happening behind the scenes of the VA system, and then going from there. But if it hasn't been denied, then I imagine that the VA is going through a process of trying to find it, and it's notifying that its initial attempts have failed so far.
Okay. All right. So this next person says, I don't recall doing an exit physical when I got out. I separated shortly after returning from deployment. Would it be in my records that I can take to get a disability rating?
So yeah, it's not uncommon to hear that people don't get an exit physical. It's beyond bizarre to me. That can be to the detriment of the VA though, because a lot of times in that exit physical, if they check everything off as being awesome, it makes it that much more difficult for you to come back later and say things aren't awesome. So if you reported something while in service, you were treated for something in service, then we should have access to it. But if you didn't, it still doesn't preclude you. What it does though is it puts the onus back on us to be able to go and work with a medical provider now to help create a reasonable argument that the issues that you're dealing with are connected to service. So complicated sort of process, but not, there's no wrong doors here. Again, your VSO, VSR should be able to help you walk through that process, and based on the information you have, come up with a good game plan to get that claim.
All right. And then this last question, and maybe Ed, you could just lightly touch on this. For this person, they're asking about the VA medical or VA healthcare. Just to let this person know, we are doing another webinar later on today at 1 that's going to focus on VA healthcare and how to actually enroll. So just for the purposes of this webinar, Ed, maybe you could just let them know briefly how to enroll in the VA healthcare system, if you know.
Well, absolutely. So, and I just want to preface this by saying, if you get a chance, please attend that afternoon presentation. Kathleen and team are outstanding. There is a ton of information. She has more information also on some of the different programs that are out there around them. So highly recommend, if you have an opportunity, please attend that. Typically there's two ways to, well, you can apply for VA healthcare. You don't have to be service connected. The only issue is if you're not service connected or not retired, it is an income-based application process. You possibly could be over income for access to VA healthcare. Another path is service connection. So even if you're 0% service connected, you do have access to VA healthcare at a certain priority level. And if you have a 10% or higher service connected disability, an even higher priority level of access to the VA. You can apply online, go to the VA website. They have, you can apply online. There's a phone number you can call. If you want to come into our office, we can actually fill out the 1010 easy form for you. Multiple different ways. The VA does a good job of creating multiple paths to be able to apply for healthcare. Start by going to the VA website though, and just type in apply for VA healthcare, and it'll walk you through the process.
They can even go to a clinic. They can apply at a clinic, go to the information booth directly at a clinic, and they can apply right there for VA healthcare.
And that might be the fastest way to apply in reality.
Yep.
Cool. All right. Well, it looked like that's the last answer last question that has come through. Before I pass it back to Kirk, I just want to bring your attention to the chat again. Also, you were emailed this at the beginning of the webinar, but there was a post-webinar survey link that was added to the chat earlier. I think I added it at least twice so far, and then you also received it in an email. The survey is not required, but if you do take the time to fill it out, we would really appreciate it. It's just information that we can use for later on, and things like how we can make these webinars better for you in the future. What did we do well today, and what can we work on for the next time? So it's just information like that just makes this program better for you guys. So you have the chance or you have the time, feel free to fill it out and let us know how we did today. And with that, I'll go ahead and pass it back to Kirk to close us out.
Thanks, Michael. Okay. Again, I want to highlight this is our contact information page for myself as Michael, as well as Merlene, our link. And then also Ed's information is on there too for the County Veteran Office. So if you need to contact us directly, please take note of this and we can also get back with you if you have any questions for later. Also want to bring up some of our upcoming webinars. Michael did make a note that we have a webinar this afternoon at 1 o'clock on healthcare and applying for the healthcare system. So if you're interested in the healthcare program or VA healthcare, please join us for that webinar at 1 o'clock. You can register on our Eventbrite page as well. We have events benefits overview coming up again tomorrow. And then focusing again on our life cycle for veterans, we have our post-military life webinar coming up on November 16th. And then also following up with housing resources for veterans. And then building resiliency and mental health on the 17th and 18th. We also, at the end of the month, will have aging and retirement, which is also going to focus on that continuum of care as you focus on the life cycle for the veteran. So please take advantage of these informational webinars and the resources that are provided. Our keynote speakers that are going to be speaking on each one of these topics are going to be providing a lot of information on these information. So tune in if you like more information. With that being said, I want to thank you all on behalf of CalVet and the entire Veteran Services Division. Thank you for your service. This is the CalVet phone number and webpage, and also our Facebook link. You can download that QR code, and you can like us on Facebook. Please, thank you for your service. With Veterans Day coming up next week, take advantage of some of the benefits and events that will be participating in your local region. I highly encourage you to go out as veterans and participate. Thank you for your service and thank you for joining us today, and reach out to us if you have any more questions.
Everybody have a good day.